Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the benefits of mixing analog with our digitally recorded, mixed and mastered music. So what we've got here is a track that's been very well balanced. It's the full mix, but it hasn't got any plugins on it, so there's loads of headroom. It's just a good overall rounded mix, and we're going to use that as the basis to be able to apply lots of analog tweaks to this, and it should richen and thicken up and help glue the track together. And today I'm going to talk about how and why we do all that. As musicians, mix and master engineers and audiophiles alike, we're all in search of the best possible sound for our music, and a really important part of that is to be able to reintroduce the analog warmth and richness back into our digital music. So let's get straight into it. I've selected the last third of the track just to give us something consistent to listen to, and you'll notice that last in the chain I've got a limiter, which is there just to protect our 0 dB. As I said, there's plenty of headroom in this track, so that shouldn't be a problem. But as we go through these various analog and saturation plugins, this should allow us to drive the signal nice and safely to 0 dB. So it's worth saying, this is not a run through of every analog plugin in the universe. This is going to be a look at the overarching principles of reintroducing analog warmth and richness back into our music. So first up, let's have a listen to the track even without the limiter. As you can see, we're not bothering 0 dB. I've dropped it by 0.5 as well. If I just reintroduce the limiter now, you can see at the top here the in and then the out. So this is the section that the limiter would affect if the peaks started to creep into the red. I know because I've listened to this track that there are no sections in this particular mix that go above 0 dB, but we may push this quite hard as we get into some of these plugins. And these plugins are some of my favourites, and the beauty of them is that they're so well emulated. I've got quite a lot of experience dealing with analog, tape and recording on multi-tracks and reel-to-reels, and some of these plugins really do a fantastic job of recreating that, but at a fraction of the cost and without any of the hassles of maintenance, which personally I love. I grew up with all that stuff, so this is fantastic to be able to benefit from the positive parts of analog without any of the hassles. Okay, so we can see this limiter is basically the same coming in as it is going out. Okay, so everything sounds clean and pristine, so let's engage the first plugin. And before we start the music again, I'm going to quickly explain exactly what we're looking for with analog. Back in the day, you would record your music with analog equipment, a desk, a reel-to-reel or a multi-track recorder. And because of the shortcomings of the technology and the manufacturing, what that did was it created harmonic distortion, which was a byproduct of the actual process, manufacturing and the equipment that you're using. The good part of that was that it sounded better using the right equipment, and it made your instruments and your signals sounded better. So what all of these plugins in the digital domain do is they try to emulate that with odd and even order harmonics. So now we understand that, we can now tinker with these and try and get the best out of them and make our music sound better. Effectively, you're taking a signal and adding extra harmonics into the signal chain, which thicken it up. Which, if you think of it this way, if you have your drums, your bass, your guitars and your vocals, they're also pristine in their own respective frequency range. And what this does is it thickens, the analog thickens the sound of each of them, which means that the edges of those instruments, the sort of frequency ranges are blurred and they blur into one another, which helps glue it all together. And that's what we're going to try and work on today. So now let's listen to the track. I've re-engaged the limiter and I'll bring in the Buster SE. You could just hear that lift happen. And I've got this set pretty much how you would have a master bus compressor set. So quite a low ratio, quite a long attack, very short release, so it's basically allowing transients to happen, but it's taming them very subtly. The threshold's set, so we've basically just got between 2 and 3 on average dB, so it's compressing the overall signal by 2 or 3 dB, and of course then I'm boosting it pretty much the same amount, just to bring that volume level back up to where it was, but of course it lifts with it the overall mix, so you're basically raising the floor of the music up. Disengage. Hear how it sounds so pristine, you can really pick out each instrument. And that little subtle lift is just all of the instruments gelling back together. So next I want to introduce you to a tape simulator that's native to my DAW, and it's excellent. I've been using it for years. I use it on almost every one of my mixers. It's got some real punch to it, and you can add a little bit of grit and warmth, but I tend to use it very clean and add a lot of treble at the top, a lot of air. So let's have a listen to it. Never really push the levels too hot with this because it does distort very easily, but it offers such a lot of gain. You can see I'm not driving this particularly hard, but if I do start to increase the output, and we'll get a little bit of air on top. Sounds quite muddy now. Basically what we're doing, we're keeping the drive very low, so it's not adding much harmonic distortion. It is adding some, it's adding a slight richening effect. I've got quite a lot of treble boost. The dot there is basically neutral. I've pushed it beyond where I'd really be comfortable to in a normal mixing situation, but I've just done this for effect so you can really hear the treble boost. The output is nowhere near maxed out, but it's given us quite a nice volume lift. So next up is the saturation knob, and this is a fantastic plugin by Softube. So although this plugin looks about as basic as it can get, it's actually really fantastic. You can apply saturation to the overall signal, which is neutral. You can keep the highs and therefore distort or saturate everything below that, or keep the lows, and I'll flick between them so you can get a feeling for what that does to the music. Quite flat without it. Sounds good there. Ultra clean, ultra pristine. Okay, next up is an all-time favourite. You guys have probably been waiting for this. You may have heard about it or read about it. This is the J37. It's a bit of a combination of real-life hardware and some real blue sky thinking, where they've taken some interesting features and compiled them all into one tape reel-to-reel style machine. So let's have a listen. This is very subtle to begin with, but I'll go into it in a little bit more depth. Okay, here we go. Now the J37 is one of the more natural sounding analog saturation plugins you can get. You'll notice that we're on 15 inches per second, which is generally regarded as being high fidelity studio grade. You can switch over to 7.5. So here that's got a lot less bottom end. I feel like the 15 is a little bit more rounded, a little bit more natural. You can even mess with the tape formula, so the type of tape that's been used. Here we've got the blue 815. Now we're onto the red 811. And then the 888. Now there's no right or wrong here, it's just personal preference. Again, I personally feel like 815 suits this particular track better. As I drive up the input, you'll hear that the saturation becomes quite overpowering quite quickly. So yeah, I really like to keep my mixes as clean as possible. Growing up in the era of analog and reel-to-reel, I dreamt of ultra-clear mixes, and now in the digital domain, I have that capability, we all do. I tend to build in saturation at the granular level, so whether it's on drums, bass or guitars or vocals, at that stage I'll introduce the saturation which will become part of that track. Now if I disconnect the input from the output, I'll be able to mess with these manually to get what I think is a really, really nice sound without getting too distorted. Sounds so much more full, doesn't it? You can see we're really driving the limiter now, right into the red there. But the signal's still quite cool here. You can even mess with the bias. I personally feel like the nominal at this point is the more detailed audio. It just sounds comparatively flat without it. And it's those little tweaks, it's that little subtle additional fulfillment of the bottom end and the little rolling of the treble. Those softer edges that just make the music sound so much more natural and full. Pristine and clear. Just sounds more like a record. Okay guys, so what did you think to that? Personally, I'm a really big fan of the J37 and my classic tape saturation plugin, which is native to the Magic software. It's been around for a lot of years, but to me it's really valuable, and I love things like that. Something that's a bit more rare, a bit more left field, but really has huge value to my intended purposes. When it comes to bringing analog saturation into the digital domain, which is where most of us now record and mix our music, it's really advantageous to be able to pick and choose whichever piece of software works best for us. We can mess with so many parameters and there's so many things to tweak. It really only matters what comes out of the speakers, so you might find that one setting works really well for someone else but doesn't work for you, and likewise you might find that something works fantastically for you but seems to work for no one else, or certainly no one talks about it. I think that's it when it comes to making music. You've really got to find the hidden gems. So keep exploring, keep looking, and hopefully you'll find something of your own too. So that just about wraps it up for today guys. If you like this video then please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps me know that you're into this just as much as I am. It helps me create more content and I can really engage with you in the comment section below. So until next time, see you later guys.